Salute.
Salute.
Welcome to a very, very special episode of the Inner Workings podcast. Yeah? Good? We're drinking Sauvignon Blanc Semillon from Rosebrook, if anyone's interested. A very, very special episode today. A really special guest. One of the first people I ever collaborated. A very busy person, not just in music now, but in TV too. Please welcome ZIGGY Ramo.
Man, thank you so much. It's so bizarre to be sitting here chatting in this context. Like everything we've been through, like personally, professionally, it's just crazy. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're back in Perth. You now currently you've lived in Sydney since 2018, right?
Yeah, 2018. Yep. Well, that's a whole story
That's a whole story in itself.
So, like, because we met in
2016.
Yeah.
And early days, we met in 39.
2015. I think we met 2015.
Nah, it was definitely 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, because I had blonde hair.
Yeah.
Wait, that was 2015.
No, I'm sure it was 2015.
Okay, maybe it was then, yeah.
Because, so I was in my first year of uni
right
when we met, which was 2015.
Okay.
And so Jeremy Smith, who does Lab 6 now.
Yes.
Shout out Jeremy.
Shout out Jeremy.
Yeah.
He and I had like mutual friends, and I moved to Perth in late 2014, and then started uni in 2015, and like was trying to get like the music thing up and going, and caught up with Jeremy, and we did sessions in the Northbridge warehouse.
Yes.
And when I was doing sessions with Jeremy, he was like, "Oh man, I got this young kid. He's like a white dealer, and like he shares this room with me, and like, and so then he was like, you guys got to get together and hang out." And so that was like 2015, because I remember like you had was it like the snow tape. Like you had all these like beat tapes that were just like on SoundCloud. And I remember hearing them, and I was like, "Oh my god, it is the white dealer!" Like white dealer, like died reincarnated into like this rich 19-year-old white boy in South Perth. Like it's so good.
Oh, that is funny.
And so then we like did the first session we ever did. We wrote Black Thoughts.
The EP.
Actual?
The
first session, the first time we ever met, we wrote the song Black Thoughts. Like And it was like I don't know if I've ever spoken about like the backstory, but it's like I was going through like the worst mental health time at that time, and I'd literally just come from a session with my therapist, and then I went and met Jack, and then we started writing, and then my therapist called my sister and brother-in-law and was like, "He's gonna get hospitalized. Go get him." So they came through to the studio.
I had no idea.
As they came through, like we were like 2 verses into Black Thoughts. And like, and so wrote that. And like it took like, we did that in no time at all. And it wasn't until we started getting like the Stan Grant sample, then you were like, "Oh, this song's like about something," like because you were just like so into the beat, like.
But yeah, also for me, that was like kind of my first lived experience of understanding that side of things, or like having that narrative, kind of portrayed to me. So I kind of like lived the album's message in real time, basically. Which was really cool.
Yeah.
And opens me up to so much stuff, which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, we just I think we just connected because we both just were like, I guess, bulldogs and wanted to just go hard at doing stuff.
Oh man, massive! And that was the thing, is like we did that, and then I literally finished that song, and then went into hospital, and then just like was scrolling through your beat tapes, and just found all the beats for Black Thoughts. Like outside of Black Thoughts, Fire, and White Lies, every other song was beats that you had already done, and that like it kind of had felt like this similar thing of like you and I had been like separately honing like our craft for like this absolute collision course that like happened, and then we just like so I was like in hospital just like writing these songs to like these beats, and then when I finally got out, like we came here and like and we were like so green, like, and I also like was such like so like purist
Fresh,
and like and it was like every song like we can't do any vocal comping, so like every song on the album is like one take.
I didn't know how to vocal comp.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to record vocals.
Yeah.
I was just like making beats. And,
Wait. One take the whole. Yo, I gotta go back and listen to it now with that.
Yeah,
in
there's
mind.
no like, you know how like you come in and we do what we call punching, like we split it up, which is the way to do it.
Totally,
right?
it's way better.
It's the way better way
it's
to
way
do it.
better.
But we're just we're only a couple of years into our music journey, so we don't know like how to do it. No one's really taught us.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and even there was times where it would be like, oh, like this beat that you written, like I really want to make, like I've got a song to it, and I was like, oh, do you want to grab up like the session? And you're like, I don't know what the session is. Just like record over the MP3. Like,
damn.
That's what we did.
And it was just like,
That's what we did.
But it was such like raw expression that it was like, and just captured at like this really specific, important time.
I guess maybe let's dive into that. Obviously, if anyone who's watching this who's heard Black Thoughts, obviously, the themes around, Indigenous issues and genocide and kind of your lived experience, but maybe take us through how you kind of conceptualize that album, because it also, Black Thoughts is also to do with the time you had with your own sort of coming, your own sort of dark thoughts and your, battle with depression. So
massively, like it's like to me, like the real dark thing, like there's a line in Kids, and it's like, which is like the last track on the album, and it's like this obituary that I feel for Latrice will now become very handy, because that was the whole thing. Like I was hospitalized with my depression, with like suicidal ideation, like, and they were fearing that I was going to take my own life, and like to me it was like Black Thoughts was like everything that I understood, like about our society, about our context, about this experience, put in to this piece of work that I very much believed would be around longer than I would be. So I was like, if I at least capture it, then like I feel like I can like go with peace in a way. Which I mean, like, is kind of crazy because that's what's going to happen anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, our art does live longer than us, but like there just was such an urgency because it felt like my time was like so finite. Like it felt really close. So it was like, just need to get it out, need to capture it, need to do it. And it was just like, it kind of felt like this culmination of like, and I think that's what's so, like, art is expression, right? So like, I think that's why, I mean, this album only kind of grows with significance as like time passes, because like that's, you can feel that it, like that's the intent of the album. Like it's just raw expression. And like the truth is like when art meets commerce, like finding that balance is a really hard thing. And like at that time, you or I didn't understand like commerce and art meeting each other. All we knew was expressing ourselves. And it's crazy because like as you get further, like you're just trying to get back to that. I think like like the further and further things have progressed, like I just find myself more and more like trying to just get back to a place of, and not even get back, but just hold on. Like just hold on to like.
So you feel like it's fleeting?
It's not that it's fleeting. It's just that like, as it becomes your livelihood, like this is what you live off.
And as you have more understanding of it, that there's a beauty about it. And this is kind of advice to anyone who's just starting out to music. Like, kind of enjoy not knowing stuff, because like when you're just kind of blindly doing, making music and creating art, like, we were obviously with concepts and stuff in mind, but there's kind of that beauty of just like, you're just doing it. But as you start having more understanding and it becomes your livelihood, there's, I don't know how to explain it. It's like more pressure, or I don't know. Can be more exhausting. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think so. I think it's like, well, that's the thing is like, right. I mean, I feel like someone hell corny said this, but it's like, it's the music business. So it's like, as much as it's about music, it's also about business. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, at that point, we were like some kids banging around in a warehouse who just like loved the roots and like loved like
Questlove.
totally. Do you know what I mean? Like Jack was so set at that point on being like South Perth Questlove, like drumming, DJing, everything, you know? And so it's yeah, totally. So I think like, yeah, there was a certain like bliss in our ignorance, you know? Like, but I also think it's like anyone who gets anywhere in this kind of industry, like, or can sustain it, like it has to come from that place because you just have to eat so much shit to like get anywhere. And like you have to be fueled from like a place of love and passion and expression within, you know, the artistic endeavor. Because like if you're getting energy off like anything other than that, I think you're not going to find the like resilience and perseverance to stay in this because when art and commerce meet, like it just gets ugly like real quick. It's like it's a really difficult thing to
and it is a
navigate.
fine line too of trying to get that balance.
Totally. I mean, you know, and it's like more power to people. Like if you come in and like you can make money and do your thing, like, you know, it's also sometimes it's also just a job. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I think it's about understanding like who you are, like what your purpose is, what kind of gets you up in the morning. Because I don't look down at anyone who's just like, you know, doing this as a job. Because like at the end of the day, like we all got to work, you know. It's like, I think I was just like very okay with like, I would rather work shitty jobs and do exactly what I want to do with my art than like make my, like, I mean, I'm lucky enough now to like have like me, like art as my job, but like I would have done this no
Either
matter
way.
what, you know? And I would way prefer to like still like pack shelves at a supermarket and make exactly what I want to make than like, yeah, like be standing in like being perceived as successful and being completely disconnected like with my art. Like I would just hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can relate. Can definitely relate. I was folding clothes. I still was folding clothes up until maybe like until the pandemic hits, just because I preferred to have the flexibility.
Oh, and we got to normalize like the struggle, like
massively.
Yes.
totally. Like I think it's like if you ever get to a place where your complete like livelihood is straight from doing what you love, you are in such a rare percentage. Like that's so there's like such privilege and yeah, that is so rare. So I think it's like it's okay to like to
hustle,
to hustle,
and do both.
Totally, man. Like, like, and also it's like, yeah, you just gotta be. It's so hard. Like it's so hard, and you got to be so delusional. Like you got to be so delusional. Like yeah, I think we were going to say earlier that like before we got into the whole discussion of when we met, it's like we did Black Thoughts. We ended up getting shows, and we were doing like a regional tour around WA. Then through that, got an opportunity to go LA. We went to LA in 2017. Then when we were coming back, it was just like going back to Perth kind of feels like
stagnancy.
Yeah, and
it
kind of feels like going to LA like really opened our eyes to like the music business, right? It's like we were starting to learn that like because we had this album like Black Thoughts, and we'd like played big sound, we'd done all the things that you were supposed to do to help progress your career, but we just like hadn't found necessarily the like right champions and like the right people to understand what we're trying to do. So then going to LA, it was just like, oh my God, world is massive. Like there's this whole thing going on. Like there's this whole other side of things that we're starting to learn now. So like going to Sydney was like furthering that understanding. But like we went over there not knowing anything, anyone, like in this tiny little apartment that like we turned the lounge room into a studio. Like we cut the vocals for A to Z in there. I'm pretty sure
we did some stuff. We did some stuff. Yeah, we had like a few sessions. Like as well. We had a session like with Hermitude and Earth
Yeah,
Boy.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
really cool. We had one session with Kaylani in the Atlantic Studios, and Bad Baby was outside.
Yeah.
Because she had just blown up.
Yeah.
With the,
Yeah, that
with
was
the
so
went
funny.
viral.
Catch
sorry.
me outside.
Yeah.
Literally caught her
outside. Literally.
Atlantic.
That is a good story. But yeah, and then like everyone in an Uber was like trying to sell us a script or something. It was it's a
Or
hustle.
a demo tape or a beat tape.
Yeah, everyone's out there doing something. You know, it's a city of broken dreams. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good to. I don't know. It's good to definitely go places where the pace is different, but it also makes you appreciate here too.
Oh, Matt, and because that was the thing, right? It's like Jack and I moved to, we moved to Sydney together, and like what we realized as well, like there's like so many pathways to get to the same place.
Massively,
you know,
yeah.
And I think that's the whole thing. Is it's about understanding, like it's about understanding like how to like maintain like your joy and quality of life like within the pursuit of making art that you're proud of.
Yeah.
Because I think like we get so hung up on like, oh, like, you know, like what is success, right? It's like, yeah, selling records and doing, you know, shows and all of that. Like, sure, that's success, but like that success is so fleeting and like it doesn't like sustain like you feeling happy like in your whole life. And I think like that's like, yeah, like our past obviously took us like to a point, and then we like, and I think that's like why we've always had so much love and respect for each other, because like we understood that like we had the ultimate self-belief in ourselves. So it's like you can back your decisions. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like you made the call that it was like, for me, where I'm at, like Perth is where I'm gonna like continue to grow, and that's why I was saying at the start of this, like it's crazy to be like back sitting here, like seeing the growth. And I was saying to Jack as well, like, man, if we had have had like what you guys have built when we were young and here, like we never would have left. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but in saying that, he only learned that through those experiences.
Yeah, well, I learned so much in Sydney. You know, like sitting in a room with, you know, Dave Hammer telling me like, you know, you got to get your stems exported correctly, like, you know, and being like, you know, and working with Tucker from Fundamentals, like help, you know, pulling like songs apart and like all of these things. Like Sydney was great, but I had it. You know, it was really humbling because I was really young, like 2021, and like we'd obviously, you know, we'd done a national tour and we'd, you know, gone to Big Sound and been like, you know,
done
at
all
the forefront of that,
all the
like,
while feeling like so irrelevant.
Yeah.
It was so funny, man. Like I think back at like the opportunities that we had, and like I can so remember just being so stressed about how nothing was moving or it wasn't going in the right direction. And
After
like,
this is like post, like, you know, and that was the whole joke, is that like we would, you know, but yeah, we went there and then it was like, oh, you know, things change, and that's the big part about being like staying true to what you want to do for the art, is that like, you know, you might get all this support from, you know, whoever it is, Triple J, Spotify, whatever, but then, you know, none of that stuff is ever guaranteed. Well, the only thing that's guaranteed is you continuing to make the art consistently and to grow things organically. And so, you know, I remember us being in Sydney and like A to Z, you know, that song was going crazy. It was doing like 14,000 streams a day. You know, like if that happened to a song now, any of the artists that we're working on would be like jumping up and down.
And we were
stressed.
stressed.
We were stressed.
also
We weren't
to
getting
imagine-
added to radio.
Yeah.
To imagine, this is before Spotify and DSPs had hundreds of millions of people on
Yes.
there. So it's
Totally.
like, it's actual organic and it's actual reach. It means people were still going back and re-listening.
Yeah.
Not nowadays where it's like you listen to 20 seconds and it's a play type of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, like you know, Ziggy was the cover of Beats and Bars, and we were like, all we cared about was like getting added to rotation on the Jays, and like it ended up getting a spot ad, but it's that, and it was like, I don't know, but that's just us being young and sort of naive.
Yeah, I think
And
it was
like,
such a big learning curve in
Yeah.
like you can't make art for a space. Like,
Yeah.
because if you do that, it's like every space comes and goes. Like, so your art will like live and die with the success of that space. So I think like as artists, like it's our job just to like just try and like be persistent in being honest and like finding honesty within our expression, because then that gives your art a chance to live beyond, like, you know, it's like if you just look at like we have records and cassettes and CDs and radio and streaming and TikTok, and like the way in which music is going to be consumed will always change. But like the thing that will always stay constant is like whether or not someone connects to it. You know, it's like no matter like the technology in between like artist to consumer, like it's always going to be does like, you know, does that person feel like do they feel
Is it connecting with them? Yeah.
Totally. And I think that is like, again, like that was such a big learning of like, but you know what I mean? It's like that to some people is like, nah, like fuck that. Like I'm just trying to like capitalize on the space, make my money, do my thing. And it's like, cool. Like if that's, you know, what is motivating you to stay on your path, and like, so be it. But like, I think just for me, when all I've ever wanted to do was, you know, tell stories regardless of the medium, like that's been the coolest thing for me. Like as time goes on, like I just want to tell stories, you know, and create stories in, you know, like acting or scoring or albums or books or just like, you know, it's like that. I always just think about it as like a kid in the sandbox, and it's like, yeah, like I want to build my sandcastles, but then I want to like get up and go over to the monkey bars and like get on the swings. It's just
multifaceted,
like,
yeah, multidimensional.
And it's interesting, right? It's fun. Like, how long can you do the same thing? You know, like we all grow, right?
And you've recently gone to the monkey bars with the new show you're in, Black Snow on Stan. Ziggy's, you pretty major.
Some of the scoring and
the scoring too.
Yeah. So I like co-composed the score with Jeb Palmer. He's like an amazing composer, and like that was also so cool as well because like like the longer you stay in this space, like the more kind of amazing people you get to meet. And like, you know, Jed's a bit older than us, but like still just like it's so cool and humbling to meet good people trying to do good things. Like, and I think that's been such a big lesson. It's like, you know, you feel like this industry is really big and really large, but it's just like it's not. And it's like not. Being a good person, like
it goes a long way.
It goes a long way, like and having kindness and compassion and collaboration, and you know, it's like you just don't know where people are gonna go. So it's just like it costs you nothing to be kind, like, you know, and like, and also I think you just want to stay open to learn, like, because it's like Jed, right? Like he's, you know, he's like been a composer for like literally like
yonks, yes,
ages, right? And this is literally my first time, and so it's like it could have been so easy for him to be like, nah, man, like this is what we're doing, but like he really like understood that, like, you know, this show and this story and this music, like I had a lens that he didn't have, so like he was like so open,
willing to relinquish a bit of that
totally
creative. That is
that
so
kind of
cool.
creative, but then also like so humble and giving, and like you know, it's like Dave Hammer telling you how to like bounce out stems. It's like writing a score and like delivering it, like that is like a whole skill set that I knew nothing about. Like, and you know, I like always like to think that I do my best work in the deep end, but like I only do it if I got like good people around me. And like I think that's the thing, is like as you just want to be around, because that's the other, I mean, it's like I just want to be around good people and be doing cool stuff, because like that's the success, right? It's like that you get to hang out with
and
people.
having the freedom to do cool stuff when you want.
Massively. And I think it's hard because you start to like become desensitized to like how much like instability you have to live with to chase this. And it is like it's so, and that, I think because of how little foundation you have within like trajectory or how to like progress, like it's about trying to just like find like constants and like rocks and solid foundations like within the relationships with people around you, because that's like they're going to be the ones that like help you I guess like find like the courage to just kind of stay the course, you know.
I was gonna touch on that a little bit more. Like you mentioned how at a point after the tape was the project was dropped, you decided to go to Sydney and you decided to stay, right? What are some misconceptions as an artist that's emerging about, I guess, packing up and leaving now in hindsight, looking back, and what would you have told yourself earlier? For the people at home, anyways.
No, totally. Well, because so Jack and I went to Sydney together, and I still remember when Jack came and knocked on my door, and he was like, I need to go home. Like, that's where I need to go. And like, nothing about our conversation was about like work or what we're chasing. Like, my response to Jack was like, are you good? Like, I want you to be good wherever you need to be. I support you. And he was the same way. Like, me staying, and like, that meant that, you know, we just worked so closely together. It would mean at that time that would mean that there would be not as close work. So it's like, I think because we'd always like prioritized each other's like mental health, emotional well-being, and then on top of that, like doing really cool shit. Like to us, it was like family. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, in terms of like misconceptions of like packing up and going away, like I think like it can be so beneficial, but it's only beneficial if it's good for you. And it's like, if you're in that right
and you
place.
might not make the right decision. Like, you don't know. Like, there'll be good and bad things, because it's like, you know, I went to Sydney for maybe 6-7 months, right? And it's like, you know, someone might see that as like, and it's like, oh, is that a waste or was that beneficial? Like, I think it's beneficial because I learnt so much, and it humbled me because I was young. I'd had a bit of, you know, people telling me I was good,
Gassed
you know,
up a
and
little bit.
I was
you
gassed.
are good though. Like, you are.
Oh,
good.
I know, but what I mean is like, you know, you need to have that level of like,
Trust in your ability.
you know, just striving to be better. Not that I wasn't, but it was good to like go somewhere and realize that like I needed to work on certain things and lock in on certain things, you know, rather than just think you're like the bee's knees, obviously. And like, yeah, I think Sydney really taught me that, because I got into some rooms with people who really knew how to like, you know, I learned in Sydney how to finish a song.
Totally.
And that's what I do, you know, for our team.
100%.
That's, that, you know, everyone's nervous to bring me, bring JCAL, like, you know, that's what I do. That's my thing, you know, like, so I learnt that there. Like, A to Z was my training ground. For that. We pulled that song apart like crazy. Yeah. And did the same thing with Tucker when I did his single.
Yeah.
Like, pulled that, like, having to do things I'd never had to do before. So, you know, was that worth it for 6 months? That, you know, that's beneficial. So, you know, you just kind of got to go, I don't know, it sounds corny, but it's like, you know, live in the moment type of thing. You know, and you won't always make the right decisions. And probably, you know, you probably felt the same way of like, oh, I've moved here. Like, you know, we moved away from the band. That was really cool. And we obviously had this space, and we moved away from a ton of resources. But in the end, you know, it's like Sydney is where you've needed to be to strive. You met your manager that you have now, who's amazing, who lives there down the road from you. Like, you know, you've built all of these relationships. You know, shout out Lou Mitchell, who's your engineer.
Lewis Mitchell, man, he's the...
And who helps you produce. Like, you know, like amazing. You've built all of these new relationships. So you kind of just like, you kind of just have to, again, it's corny, but like follow your heart in a sense. Like, and just do things that work for you. You know, and it's like, I came back here with all of this knowledge, and it's like, a few years prior, 2016, and we went to the person sitting on this couch that Ziggy brought here was Marley. Marley brought Ziggy here. Yeah. And I was
Marley
like,
brought Ziggy here. Or
no, I brought Marley here.
I was like, yo.
Sorry, Ziggy brought Marley here. And so I came back to Perth at the end of 2018, and by the start of 19, I was like, helping Marley with all this new knowledge, and I was mixing his songs, and that was his basically breakout year of like Unearth finalists. So it all kind of just works
Full
out,
circle.
you know, as long as your intentions. But yeah, my point was just like, you know, you don't always, your life is not always about like just making the exact correct decisions for that exact moment. Like things might be like, you know, I was sitting in Sydney like shit, like I don't know what, you know, having a lot of doubts and stuff like that. But then, you know, now I look back on it later, and a lot of it makes sense. So
totally, it's like, it's just going with your gut.
Yeah.
It's like nothing's 100% right or 100% wrong. Right. Like it's all in like what you make it, and and like you just gotta like, I think you gotta prioritize, you know, being a like well-adjusted person, and then like, you know, I think. The art is secondary, you know, because it's like, like you're trying to like build a life, you know, like it's not just like living project to project or creative endeavor to creative endeavor, like because you've got to like give so much of yourself to make art. So I think you want to like make sure that like you've created a life that like is fulfilling for you, so that you have the energy to like pour into art. Because a lot of times it's like it's such like delayed gratification, right? Like it's you know, and even it's so funny now because it's like, yeah, we're talking about like when we dropped A to Z, like, and it's like still by far like my most successful song, and like we didn't even enjoy that it went so well because we were so stressed because it's like it didn't get an ad, and then like literally like a couple of weeks ago you FaceTime me and you're like, oh, I just saw Sugar Coated Lies got an ad, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, so how's your life been? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like as you like, you know, if you stay the course, like the goalposts are always going to move. So it's like, you know, what you dreamt about by the time you get to a place where it's happening, like you've dreamt about the next thing. So it's like, I think getting value off like, you know, things is just like never really gonna, you're kind of always going to be falling short because like, there's always going to be someone with more streams. There's always going to be someone like with more shows, with more followers, like with bigger show fees. It's like if you're too worried about, you know,
accolades.
Totally, you just got to find your own lane, you know, and finding your own lane is like
what's important to you.
Totally, and it's, you know, it's like so easier said than done, and like I don't know, as much as it is like about, you know, trying to remove like the smoke and mirrors for people, it is also just like, unfortunately, like you just kind of got to figure it out. Like, because also, you know, something that works for me, it works for me because it's me, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and no one else can really.
No,
yeah.
Totally. So it's like, I mean, I'm super passionate, like as I grow, like with trying to like help facilitate and like build with other people. But at the same time, like just in terms of like what's your top 10 tips to like become successful or whatever, it's just like, I don't know, like I know who I am and I know that I work like Courtney, my manager, she's always like, you're the hardest working person that I've ever met, and I'm always like, that's absurd, because I just like, because of my mentality, I'm like, I don't feel like I ever work hard enough, you know, like I don't feel like that exists. So like, you know, it's like everyone's so different. So like how, but to that I would say like you got to work so hard. Like none of this is handed. Like none of it. You know.
Like you said, you got to be borderline delusional.
Yeah, you got to be so unrelenting, and like you got to be comfortable just like being, delusionally confident, because you know the amount of times we heard like, no, what are you doing? Like,
still hear
like
that.
stop doing that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, but it's like I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. So like I got enough like fuel to keep that fire going.
Now, as an artist, as you've obviously progressed and grown, and yourself as well, Jack, obviously your message, your music, your voice has become stronger and has grown. How do you deal with people reacting to, you know, your art? Obviously, you're putting so much time, effort, love, passion, you know, all the bells and whistles into it. And I mean, probably to you, you're probably thinking you're just expressing yourself. You know, you're speaking your truth. But then in terms of people actually interpreting your message and what you're trying to get across, how do you deal with, I guess, the reception from the outside towards your art?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think as I've gotten further, what I've learnt for myself is like basing success of how people react to your art is such a zero-sum game, because you don't have any control over whether or not people respond positively or negatively. And like, I think people maybe have this like conception that I like don't like it if people don't agree with me or don't understand me. I'm like, no, like literally, sometimes I'll write a song intentionally to have someone disagree with me, because then at least they're feeling, and at least they're like engaged and thinking.
Discussion.
Totally. So it's like, I think the biggest thing I would rather someone hate what I have to say than like feel nothing at all, because like,
At least they feel something.
At least they feel something, and that's the intention of art. And that's not to say that like I'm purposely like trying to, you know,
Hurt
like
people.
hurt people or spread hate, because like the reason, like, you know, a lot of this stuff, like if I'm intentionally trying to bring something out of someone, it's like to show them their own blind spot. Like, because like, you know, we live in a country like with a lot of blind spots and things that like because of people's privileges, like they don't ever have to think about it. So it's like, yeah, sometimes I'll try and like purposely awaken a blind spot in someone. And then it's so interesting, right? Because I've spoken to people over the years, like where someone could initially have like been like, I hate that. That's so wrong. How could you say that? And then like over time, as they maybe hear me talk or listen to more of my music, like, and they actually open, they understand that like it's coming from a place of love. Like it's not coming from like a place of like, I hate you. Like it's like, nah, like.
They see where the dialogue is framed from.
Totally. Like I respect you enough to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is like, I'm just trying to be honest with people. I mean, that's like, yeah, obviously in terms of like content, but in terms of just like, yeah, how people respond to your art, like I think you just got to let go. Like you just got to let go because it's
serve the art.
Yeah, totally. I think that's, as I've gotten further, it's like, I know if my music is a success ever before anyone hears it. Because when I press play, I either know, have I done that because I love it, or have I done that because I think people might like it?
Ooh,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I hear it and I'm like, oh, I think that's because people will like it, I'm like, I don't think that's successful. Do you know what I mean? Even if people then go to love it and it does really well, it's like, is that a success? Because it's like they love something that isn't even a reflection of who I am and who I am as an artist. It's like it is an idea and it is a version of me, but catered to someone else. And I just feel like as artists, it's like success is like expression and like trying to like find like the most authentic expression. So that's why as like I've gotten further, it's like when I press play, ever before anyone hears it, I know if it's successful. And it's like, is it honest? Is it true? Is it what I wanted to do in that moment? And that's to say, like, maybe in that moment, I want to make something that people fuck with. So like that could be a success in itself, you know. But if like that's constantly where you're creating from, then like I think
it's not it. Yeah.
No. So I mean, like, yeah, like how people react to the art, like weirdly, has become more and more relevant, because it's like, I don't know, it's like the Lupe song, right? Like if you are who you say you are, a superstar, and have no fear. Like that is so weird. As I've gotten further, it's like it's more and more that, right? Like just chill out.
Let me quickly flip that, right? The opposite of that is the imposter syndrome effect, right? If you believe that
Not me,
you are
man.
what you are.
I never had it. I'm too much the other way. Like I have so much self-confidence that like I'll miss being able to celebrate wins because I'm like, I can't believe it's only happened now. Like I'm so disappointed that like it's taken me this long. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I know I'm kind of psychotic in that way. Like,
that's those delusions of
Everyone's
grandeur.
got that.
Totally,
that you gotta have.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, for me, I've never like. That's the thing is like I have more confidence in me than anyone can ever. Like,
try and knock down or take away
totally.
From you.
So it's like that's why I'll find myself in a situation where I'm like acting and composing for the first time in anything forever. Do you know what I mean? And like, and then I've talked the producers in like letting me go to Vanuatu to record because like if we're going to do it, like it's just like I don't like. It's not that I don't have doubts, but I just don't like. I trust myself. Like, and I don't like. I
think you're focused on doing.
Yeah.
You know, you're just focused on the like. Okay, this is what needs to happen. Like, this is what I want to do, and you just do it. And like, I don't know, it's a difficult thing to. Well, not. I don't know. Yeah, you just have to. It's just a mindset, really. You have to adapt, and then you either have it or you don't. Really, I mean, you can work on it, but some people, I guess, have it more than others in a way.
I think the secret sauce, like for me, like to become a doer, is to understand your why. Like, why are you doing it? Do you know what I mean? So like for me, I know that like I feel like this innate ability to tell stories because of like this ancestral connection. and I know that my purpose is to like care for country. So like I want to like try and leave this space better than like I found it. Like that's
I
where
think that's the difference between, just off listening, between you and most artists. You already have your true north prior to getting into it.
Totally,
So
man.
it's not like, oh, they're like this, I'm going to sway and start making this type of music. You're constantly just know where you're trying to head to and not swerve too far apart from the path.
And you got to have like ego, but you also got to be able to eat shit in understanding your true north.
Folding clothes.
Totally, because it's like my true north, right, is to try and, you know, care for country, leave this space better than I found it. Like, but my ego and my self-belief tells me that I'm better than everybody in this country. So then I'm like,
need that still.
oh, totally.
You definitely
So
need
then
that as a
when these
creative.
things aren't happening for me at the timeline that I think they should be, like if I'm following my true north, like I've got to let go of my ego and just be like, nah, you know what? Like, I've just got to stay the course. I got to work a shitty job for longer. I've got to just like, because if I'm genuinely like trying to make change and make difference, like I need to figure out how I can get as far as I can remaining me. So it's like, it's not about like accelerating it. It's actually about like further, like getting self-determination, independence, autonomy, understanding this whole game. So it's like, yeah, I think that's why I say find your why, like understand your true north. And it's not to say that like your why or your true north has to be the same as mine, but you have to have like the same devout like drive to that why and true north, so that like when this gets real
dark, you know,
dark,
go. Yeah.
you just know like that. And I think I was touching on that before. It's like you become desensitized to the instability that you live with in this kind of career. Because when you're just constantly looking ahead, you know, but it's even like, it's even starting to try and get to the level where it is. Yes, it's about looking ahead, but it's like you're so like you have so much understanding in where you're looking that you don't have to look ahead anymore. You can just be. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so ingrained where you're going that like you get to then live in here and now. Because like, for my own mental health, it's like when I look ahead, I get real anxious. When I look behind, I feel real depressed. So it's like,
You got to be in the present.
trying to just stay here. And like, I get to like look and reflect when I make art. And then when I step away, I know my north. So I'm just like, I let myself be like guided and make informed decisions about that. But then more and more just like try and decompress and just like chill, you know? Because like, yeah, I just don't want to like wake up and be like, you know, 50, 60 and like have done all these things. And then like, yeah, I'm a doer and that's great. But like, I didn't enjoy any of it. And like,
And what really have I done?
No,
Like,
because you don't like, you don't get time back. Like, and that's like the biggest thing of like why I'm so driven to like have my own life and like self-determination. Like, I'm not really buying into like working and then retiring because it's like that whole notion of like work for like 50, 60 years in somewhere that you don't enjoy so that you can enjoy what the last 20
left.
years of your life. That's crazy to me. Do you know what I mean? That's why I never want to work a job like in my life. I want to, and I never want to retire. So like, I want to do my work for the rest of my life. Like I'm never going to retire in the essence of like my work, my art, with or without income, like that's where I'm going. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I want to build a life where every day I wake up and I have joy, you know, because like that balance, it never comes back. You know, you get to 60, you get your superannuation fund and it's like, sweet, now it's my time to live my life. Like I've got osteoporosis. Like I've hated my job so much. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I wanna have like joy here and now. And that's like why success is like if I made something with my friends, with my family, I listen to it and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is the one. I'm feeling this. Like that to me is like, because it's more about like the moments, right? That like you're creating, you're building, the relationships that you're like nurturing, you know, like I think that's what sustains you to be able to figure it out, you know, because you're just trying to figure this out. Like man, like I don't know, anyone who tells you like they know how to do it, like, like I don't know. I don't think anyone has like the answers per se. It's just like, do you have like the resilience to find the solution, you know? because this whole career path and industry is just constant problem solving. Can you
100%?
You know, and do you have enough energy to constantly like do that? And for me to have enough energy, I just got to have enough joy and enough balance like within my life.
Touching on this topic of joy, obviously you get a lot of joy from creating, whether it's music, whether it's scoring, whether it's all the other creative facets, right? What type of feelings do you get when you go into like project mode, or you're about to start a new, project or an album or music creation? Do you like anchor yourself off of those feelings, or do you kind of like, is it kind of like a hit of inspiration that comes like?
Yeah, it's a massive hit. Like to me, it's like shedding. You know, it's honestly like shedding. Like it's like yeah. Let me jump. Yeah, it's like I feel like I've learned my process over the years is that like I need to create so intensely. I just like I'm such like I'm really. I mean, I've just been like preaching about balance and joy and all this fucking shit that I'm really bad at.
He's scary, man.
No, like I'm like
he's scared
when I'm in.
He's been in hotel rooms in Denmark, like trying to chop up. I'm like, bro, just relax, dude. Like, just play the show. But yeah.
No, I don't like. If I'm on, I'm so on, and then if I'm off, I'm trying to be all the way off. Like,
what mode are you in right now?
I've like weirdly been on. But you've caught me like literally like forcing myself to switch off because I've got like I mean I don't know when this is coming out, but who cares? I got an album coming out in like 4 or 5 days. And like
exclusive.
Yo, get this out like literally right now. But like no, it's like I started like this acting thing in June, did 3 months on set, then finished at like 11 o'clock.
Black Snow Stan, check it out. It's
Snow
awesome.
Stan, check it out.
It's really
When's it coming out?
It's out.
Oh, okay. I don't have
Stan. But the dope thing is
so good.
It's like it's going to the States in Feb. It's going. I think it's going in Germany. It's going United Emirates. It's going UK. It's going global. It's going to go out. Which is cool, man. Like, cause that's the whole thing. It's like my whole thing. Like I'm just putting out into the universe. It's like the next thing I want to make a show. That's kind of where I want to go with this. And so to say, what mode am I in? I'm like, I don't know. I'm supposed to be off because I know I've got like maybe
it's
like
technically off.
Yeah, right? I've got like 72 hours to be off, and then like it's gonna be so back on.
I mean, you've got an album coming out. Had an eventful weekend.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days that lines up pretty well.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's honestly Joondalup City's fault that I had to remain on. Like my whole thing was like, to me, this was like a homecoming. I was like sick. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna say it's the first time Jack and I had done like Black Thoughts.
Performed the album together,
and it felt so
after
like
it's been out. Yeah.
It felt so fitting because it's like, like about to put out this new record and like, but in saying that, like, and again, I'm gonna put this out in the universe, like. I reckon, like, I think, like, when we do, like, the 10-year or 15-year, whatever year anniversary of Black Thoughts, we're going to do it with, like, orchestra. We're going to do it. It's going to be, like,
the Opera House. Put it out there. Yeah.
Legit. It's going to, it's going to, because that's the thing is, like, it's funny kind of letting go of this record because it was a record that we let go of in that, like, we wrote it in, like, a couple of weeks. And then we tried to get people to help us put it out, and no label, no anyone would touch it, which is so funny.
And our friends were telling us, like, put it out, but we just knew, well, I mean, not even we, it was never my decision, but Ziggy knew, like, it's not the right time until I'm sitting at the back of a house in Como, my mate's house, and it's raining. And I get a call from Ziggy, and it's like, he's a busy man. He's hard to get hold of him. So when he rings, I answer. And so I answer, and I go to walk to this bloody asbestos shed because there's like commotion going on in this house. And it's raining. It's loud. And he's like, and he'd sent me a songwriter's agreement for a single, like a different.
Which also like is so funny because like eventually we have this song. That has always been such a little banger. Like, it's such a bop.
My dad sent me an email the other day because he has the demo and he was like, "You're going to put this out?"
Yeah, I know. No, and it's crazy, like, because it actually came out, but it got pulled because we ended up putting the album out. And, like, all of, like, my partner Vanessa, like, all of her family over in Sweden are like, when are you gonna
Is it
put out
coming
the
out?
like happy cute song? Because we fully made like a video in lockdown, and
Yep.
it's crazy as well because it's this weird thing where like I don't know, just trust in the art. So it's like the art will fully tell you when it's ready. Like and yeah, like we were gonna put out that single and like yeah, everything that was going on in 2020, like it just felt like there was this this convergence, and it was like
But this was around June, so like the George Floyd's, the civil rights movement in
Yeah.
America had
Was
been going
heavy.
popping off.
yeah, well, and I just seen everyone in Australia like doing
Post a
hashtag
black square.
Black Lives Matter, and I was like, okay, so I hear you all saying Black Lives Matter, like then hear from a Black life
That
in
matters.
this
That's
country.
in the
Do you know what,
country.
exactly
Yeah.
that matters? Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like this is what I'm gonna tell you, and yeah, like
I think the timing on that was amazing.
meant
It
to
forced
be.
people to listen. You had nowhere else to be. So it's like you had to sit
and that's
with
what's so
that
crazy. It's like,
discomfort.
I feel
Yeah.
how like I've had a so different experience of like a lot of artists like through the pandemic because it was like a really quiet time for a lot of people. For me, it was like
Crazy.
literally the busiest I'd ever been, and it's so nice. Like we dropped the album. I like my manager Courtney now, who's like literal family. It was
Shout out Courtney.
yeah, shout out Courtney. We had this plan to have this single out, and then like I just had this like Spotify put, because we'd put 3 songs out from the album on an EP, and Spotify put Black Thoughts into A1 hip hop, like, and the track had been out for like 3 or 4 years at that time, and I remember when I saw that I was like, oh, like what? Like
What's
I just,
happening here?
and then it just made me. I went and opened the album back up, and I was like, oh my god, like there's a line in Stand for Something, and it's like, will it take another life to go to waste before you get up to date with the state of inequality between race? It's not about black and white. It's about all humans getting basic human rights. And it's like, listening to that in that context, I was like, it's literally taken another murder for like us to talk about this. So like, and I wrote that like, you know, back when like Elijah Doherty in Perth had been killed. So it was like, it was just so haunting that it's like I could hear myself like speaking from the past, but it felt like I was speaking from the future. Do you know what I mean? It was like this closing in of itself, and then it's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm hearing myself as like this 21-year-old, like, and all these time had gone by, and it was just like, wow, like there was so much courage in just how honest it all was. You know,
And for it to still hold that much weight,
Totally,
half a
which-
decade
And it will
later,
for-
and it will,
yeah.
like you said,
It will
timeless.
forever.
and that was depressing though as well, because it was like, fuck, like this.
That realization of like, fuck, shit hasn't changed.
No,
Yeah.
you know, and then so yeah, I mean, I walked around to Courtney's the morning after, and I was like, and she hadn't even heard the album. We'd only been working together for like a couple months, and like hearing her tell this story is so funny, because she's like, usually when you meet an artist and they want to work with you, they're like telling you everything, like this, that, I've got this, I've done this, I've done that, and like I literally came around and I was just like, yeah, like I've got this album you've never heard, and I'm gonna put it out. And she was like, okay, come in. We started listening. We started listening to the album, and she's such a doer as well, man. She's so amazing.
So
like,
Shout out to her.
motivating.
Yeah, we
so
and she was the
motivating.
first person I ever met that didn't treat me like I was crazy. You know, like everyone that I had like come across with had always kind of looked at me a little bit like, you know,
With that
like,
little side
What do
eye,
you
like,
know? Like,
yeah. Oh, and look, I
why?
don't. As I've gotten older, like I can understand their perspective, because it's like I'm sitting in front of them being like, I've got this purpose, I've got this drive, I'm gonna do this. Also, fuck the Anzacs. Like, do you know what I mean? And like,
And you're probably saying this to people without a true north themselves.
Yeah.
That are just going through the motions. and they're
totally,
like, what do you know? Yeah.
totally. So it's like, yeah, I get that. It's like, you know, it was always gonna take the right. Oh, I mean, that's the one gem that I give. Like, it's not. You don't need everybody to get it. You need like one person to get it. Like, you don't like, you know. I think in this industry, there's no bad meetings, right? Everyone you meet with tells you that you're great, that you're amazing, to stay in touch. Like, all and genuinely, I feel like people have good intentions. Like they do want to do it, but it's just like
Red tape.
you know, there is
Yeah.
so much red tape, and it's like you just, you know, when I was younger, it was about like, I want everyone to love me, I want everyone to get it. Like, I need support, you know, I need help, and it's like you just don't. Like, you need a small, like, family of, like, people who are aligned with your true north. No, genuinely. That's like why.
There's always going to be people that don't get it.
Yeah.
When the whole Joondalup didn't get it.
Oh, I mean, they got it.
Yeah.
They just they didn't want to get down.
They didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, true.
Totally.
But no, but it was fun. Yeah, it was just like he called me, and I was at the standing at the shed, and I was like, that's a lie. I'd actually ducked one of your calls.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, because he had sent me a songwriters agreement, and I hadn't done it. I hadn't signed it. I hadn't looked at it. But then I was like, hey man, look, I'll get that thing signed over and sent to you, because I know what he's like. If you haven't done it, he'll press you for it, which is fair enough. I do the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm also the worst, because I'm just like off on a creative thing for like months, and then I'm like, why haven't you called me back, bro? Why haven't you called me back, bro? I'm literally the worst.
And then he's like, no. He's like, none of that. He's like put the album out. I'm like, it's not my, yeah, what do you mean? It's not my decision to make. That's your album, bro. Like, And he's like, okay, we're going to put it out in 2 days. I'm like,
already in
motion. Do anything. Like, the projects were probably, actually, funny enough, I still have all of the projects and stems. Because I had to send you a bunch when you did the live arrangements. But he was like, no, just leave it how it is. Because the plan was for us to always go back in and like kind of
remaster,
retweak, like none of it's like, well, it is. Everything's essentially mixed, right? Everything is mixed. As soon as it leaves the program, it's done, right?
Yeah,
so it's
everything has.
But
a
like
mix.
on a technical side, it's like maybe, but it's just raw. So everything out of that, I think.
But technically, it's fucking
it's
flawless.
Crazy. It's raw.
It's
so
perfect.
It's recorded not even in the booth there. I think it's recorded like right here. We did it out here on a. I don't even know if I had a pop filter. It was just like a an AKG PG 120 mic, $150. And, sausage fattener on the master, and then that was it.
And then I mastered everything on a computer algorithm.
Oh, Lander.
Yep. Shout out Lander. I double mastered it.
Sorry to any mastering engineer I've worked with.
No, and that's just so crazy, because I don't even known Courtney for a couple of months, and that forged our forever relationship, because I turned up there, and so I played her a few songs, and she was like, you have to put this out. I fully support you. We got to do whatever you got to do. She was like, who are the writers? Who are the, what have we got to do? And I was like, it's just Jack. Not just Jack, but I was like, it's literally me and Jack. We did the whole thing. And then she was like, okay, cool. Well, you should call Jack, see if he's down. But also, I just got to let you know, people are going to be coming over and wishing me a happy birthday, because today's my birthday. Oh. And I was like, holy,
you're really doing this on your birthday.
I know, that's why I was like, oh my God, I fully had just come and ambushed Courtney, just bam, bam, bam. And
that's the type of person
she was like, don't worry about the birthday party, we'll roll it into an album launch party. Come on. No, totally.
Doesn't care. She's about it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of energy you want to be. It's like with the all breed, it's like we're just about it.
Yeah.
Have to be.
And I walked in and I was calling Jack, and then I was like, I know I got to get the songwriter agreement. I was like, no, man, it's time. It's the album. But that also, man, that shows you the kind of person that Jack is as well, because it's even for you to be so selfless, within oh, that's not my call. It is your call though. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's
I would never think it like that. I mean, this shit is so much more important than any amount of tied up. Imagine trying to do that. Imagine if I was signed to publishing or a label. Imagine the red tape I'd have to go through to nah, it's so much more important than that. And you just have to know sometimes when it is just it's not a pop song about some love shit or whatever that you've written in 2 seconds. This is this stuff is can be curriculum. Has been curriculum. This is more important.
That was what's so bizarre about the whole Joondalup thing being oh, it's not children appropriate, and it's Black Thoughts is literally been in school curriculums. So what do we what are we talking about? But
it's just nuts. So it was always just so, and I always knew that thing was gonna come out. I mean, I thought we'll have to, we had ambitions, but the way it came out was it couldn't have been more perfect.
And what's crazy is we still are independent artists. So we turned that around in 72 hours. It was live in 72 hours, ingested, distributed. Literally TuneCore became my best friends. I didn't sleep for 72 hours, because I was because we had released the EP, but we'd released the EP as Ziggy and not Ziggy Ramo, like the IRS codes,
The ISRC
IRC codes, like
the
existed,
metadata,
but they
basically.
didn't match it. So everything was messed up. So like had to talk like directly with Apple and Spotify, and then pull them, and then like
3 days.
Man,
Re-upload the metadata.
but then TuneCore is like on like New York time. So like I just like for 3 days it was just like constant, like in the morning time I would be talking to like Spotify, Apple, like talking about, and then nighttime was TuneCore, and then like, and it was like, I mean, such big love to them.